with Committee 35, we're not looking to create the worldwide IT standards. What we're looking to do is take existing IT standards, existing practices that are already out there, and make sure that we present them in a way that they are consumable by the rail professional, to take what's important to them, so that when they have that question, when they have that lingering doubt, when they're still in the process of putting together a project, they have some guidance that will tell them what it's going to look like when they're done.
You may know the American Railway Engineering and Maintenance of Way Association, or AREMA, as the, quote, keepers of the manuals. You may know them as the, quote, people behind the largest annual railroad conference in North America. Heck, you may not know about AREMA at all. This podcast is designed, no pun intended, to change your view of who AREMA is and how AREMA has changed the trajectory of many railway careers over its 100-plus year history. Welcome to Platform Chats with your host, Walt Bleser, where he takes a moment to discuss the impacts AREMA has had on the very people who are proud to be called members. Are you ready to roll with AREMA?
This episode is brought to you by Unabridged Structures. Unabridged Structures provides mentorship and advisement to emerging technologies and early-stage companies focused on infrastructure. They have a proven track record of bringing technology solutions to the railway industry. For more on Unabridged Structures, go to unabridgedstructures.com.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to AREMA's Platform Chats. Holy cow, it has been a minute. I was looking at the last time we recorded an episode, and I saw June 7th, and I'm looking at my calendar right now, and it's late July, and the amount of fan mail coming in demanding more content was completely overwhelming. So I just want to come right out and say thank you to each and every one of you that reached out via LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, MySpace. Oh, I guess now you know that I'm somewhat joking. But honestly, it has been a minute. Total apologies. I think part of it is the fact that I was reveling in the fact that while we were away, Platform Chats with yours truly made the top 25 railway industry podcasts. Let that sink in. The part that I want to sink in is I did not know there were 24 other railway industry podcasts. So we are number 13. We got some work to do. And I think the way we do that is we keep hitting it hard. And we're going to start by going to talk about the future of AREMA. So we have talked about the past. We have talked about history and setup of AREMA. We talked about how we're organized. We've had some fantastic guests on here talking about their careers. But over the course of the next couple podcasts, I want to get people excited about the fact that AREMA is not just someone keeping track of what it has been, but we are also looking with an eye to the future. And so with that, if you happened to read in RT&S magazine, the article, Message from the President, Vic Babin, wrote an article about a brand new committee, Committee 35, Information Technology, which, as you hear on this podcast, is a bucket with a lot of stuff in it beyond just what you might think of as IT. It's not a help desk for your printer not working, although maybe it could be. I'm sure the chairman would love those emails. It's in the C&S functional group, and it was created somewhat as a directive from Vic Babin, who has a C&S background. So for the loyal listeners, you know I'm a bridge guy, so I'm a little bit out of my depths here. I might have had something to do with a little IoT company in the past, so I know a thing or two, but these guys know a lot more than me, and I am stoked to hear what they have to say about C35. So, long introduction, but that's what happens when you're a little rusty. So with that, I have Jerry Specht. He is currently, well, let's talk about his real job. His real job is he is the CNS Functional Group Vice President for AREMA. And then in his spare time, Jerry is the Director of Signal Engineering at BNSF. And in addition to Jerry, I'm going to let Jerry give a little introduction here in a second. But in addition to Jerry, we have Mike Weber, and he is the chairman, the brand new, I mean, he is still wet. I'm looking at him on the screen here, chairman of C35, which is the Information Technology Committee. And in his spare time, he is a signal engineer with Modern Railway Systems. In addition to that, when Mike starts talking, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to picture yourself in 1977 getting ready to listen to the next Led Zeppelin cut that's about to get dropped on the needle, on the record at 11 o'clock at night as you just cracked another Hams. Okay, Mike, I don't know if I could have done a better intro. So with that, Jerry, why don't you start, actually, because I introduced you first. You are technically Mike's boss in AREMA. So why don't you just talk a little bit about your role, both at BNSF, AREMA, how you got here, just whatever you want to talk about. This is a safe space.
Well, hi, Walt. Thanks again for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go back into the way back when machine and just start from the beginning. So born and raised in Center, North Dakota. I started in the rail industry in 1994 as a track laborer. I was a welder, grinder, machine operator, going to school at North Dakota State University for electrical engineering. And at one point in time, after pounding spikes, melting rail together, and then grinding some of that melted rail, I ended up deciding, hey, you know what? I actually need to start looking at interning for the railroad and working in the actual field of electrical engineering. So I got into the signal department, did that for a couple of summers, interning for BNSF. And upon graduation from NDSU in Fargo, I hired on full-time in 1999 as a corporate management trainee and started as in the signal engineering office in Kansas City, and then from there held positions in Glendive, Montana as a maintenance supervisor, Gillette, Wyoming as a maintenance supervisor, went back up to Billings as a general construction supervisor, down to Fort Worth as manager of special projects, back to Gillette because I just didn't get enough of Gillette, Wyoming, back as a general signal supervisor, then out to Seattle as a manager of signals, and then now in my current role as a director of signal engineering. And so in this current role, basically doing train traffic control system design, working with safety checking teams, working with R&D standards, all of that fun stuff, and basically kind of shaping the construction projects and what we're going to do, where the future lies within BNSF, and then also looking even further out into research and development, what's coming up for the future and where we need to take the industry. So currently with AREMA, working as the CNS Functional Group Vice President, which now with this change with Committee 35 edition is now going to be branded as the Communication Signals and Information Technology Functional Group. So now instead of just CNS, it's CS and IT. So, with AREMA, I've been a member since 1999. I spent time on the board of directors for the CNS Functional Group, executive nominating committee, membership committee, and then also helping out with the publications committee.
Wow. Okay.
It's quite a bit there.
Quite a bit. And just for everyone's knowledge, when I say that, I'm talking about myself. The CNS, the functional group, what all committees fall under your purview outside of 35?
So we have Committee 34, which is scales. Committee 36 is highway, rail, grade crossing warning systems. Committee 37 is signal systems. Committee 38 is information defect detection and energy systems. and then Committee 39 is positive train control.
Perfect. Okay, that's outstanding information for those that don't know. And without further ado, Mike.
Well, thank you, Walt. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here today and speak to your audience and to meet up with you and Jerry. It's always good to have a discussion with you guys, and I'm excited about C35 getting launched. I'm grateful to the AREMA board for putting this all together. I think it was a step that was needed, and I'm glad they've addressed it. And I look forward to being able to provide the guidance in IT like AREMA has been providing in all other facets of railroading for so long. So I guess to start at the beginning, like Jerry did, I born and bred in the Chicago area, and I'm still living there to this day. I actually started outside of the rail industry, so I spent 25 years as a video engineer and did all manner of things from live remote sports, traveling around the country doing that, and also doing advanced post-production special effects for mostly national commercials. So did everything from your local McDonald's commercial to I did do 7 Super Bowl spots during my career. So it was an exciting time. We worked mostly with the ad agencies, but I was on the technical side of things. So we did a lot of engineering, research, and development. And during that time, I had befriended, sort of, through friends of friends, met some folks who were in the signaling industry. And as a student of all things engineering, I was attracted to the graceful elegance that is signaling and how those systems were put together, and kind of got unofficial mentoring from some of those friends, and we started talking about it. When the business changed after the business I was in changed after the 2008 bubble burst and all of the economic ramifications from that, I had put in my 25 years and decided, you know what, it's time to go look at something else. Maybe I'll go check out this railroad thing and see if we can make a go of it. So I started at CN in 2013. Held a few jobs there, started in actually just as an entry level, got in at the call desk, so worked the emergency call desk for a while. Moved quickly into the train control group, so spent a fair amount of time in the back office. We were a TMDS company at the time, and was actually there for the beginning of the migration to a new office system. So you talk about a fun time to be there, to not only keep an existing office system working, but to also help implement a new one. That was quite exciting at times. And then moved off into PTC doing design work for PTC. And the unique thing about that was, at the time, our PTC design group was literally from project conception all the way to commissioning. So we didn't just do the office side of the design. We actually carried it all the way out and worked in the field doing all the commissioning. So it was a great way to get in and really see all facets of those types of projects. And we accomplished an amazing amount of work. I think we did altogether just over 1,700 cutovers in a little over 3 years. So that was pretty cool thing to be a part of. I started with Modern Railway Systems about a year ago, and I'm still based here in Chicago and working on, kind of expanding my repertoire. So working on different types of signal systems than I saw at the Class 1s, different types of PTC systems. So it's really been a unique educational experience, and I look forward to continuing on with them and continuing on with the work here at AREMA. In AREMA, I've joined 5 years ago on Committee 39, PTC. And PTC, the PTC committee, I think Jerry kind of alluded to it, is PTC, but it's also new technologies. So it was definitely the committee that if you weren't sure where to put it, you talked to the guys in 39 because they probably had somebody who had dealt with the topic. So I look forward to continuing that, and I see C35 having some overlap there. We'll definitely be try to be on the cutting edge of those types of things as well. So that's kind of how I got started, and how I got to where I am now.
Cool. And I'm not going to let you go until you tell me. Is it true you're the guy behind the three frogs that say Bud Wise?
That was a long time ago. We did do some work on those spots. I didn't do the animation. We didn't do all of that, but we were definitely involved with those spots.
That just goes to show, Jerry, how amazingly captivating the railway industry is if you leave a job like that to join people like you and me. I mean, I got to tell you, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out of my office this afternoon because my head's so big. So thank you, Mike. On that note, a couple things I want to unpack here. You guys, it's kind of cool. One, before I get into C35, I think it's kind of cool to hear that we have what Mike would be considered almost a non-traditional student for the railway industry. You hear a lot of stories about guys that started like Jerry did, where you're pre-college days in the railroad, or you had a dad or grandfather or whatever, and then next thing you know, you go to college or not, and you just boom, you're a lifer, or you've been in the industry since you graduated, like myself. And it's cool to hear someone that's had a previous life or a different career be able to come over here and be successful. So that's just something I want to hit on really quickly. I think that when you talk to people about the railway industry, and I talk about the general public, some don't believe us to be, focused on the future or technologically adept individuals. I get crap all the time that when I get home from work, do I have to take my overalls off and wipe the soot off my cheeks? I know it's all in jest, but to a point, that's what some of the general public thinks, and yet that couldn't be further from the truth. Is that right there, gentlemen?
I would agree. Yeah, it's from a technology standpoint. There's the industry is growing in leaps and bounds, and I look at from the perspective of, if you think about any company, any organization, they all have problems, right? And so, what are new and innovative ways to solve existing problems, and even problems that may have been solved already once? There's now a new way to solve that problem, and just like every other company, I think there's always problems, and there's always us folks that really want to try and solve it and make everything better.
I think some of that too falls into the just from the perception that the railroads were always very slow to adopt any new technologies that came along, and there certainly was that. I wouldn't say the railroads were slow to adopt, but I would say they've always been cautious because let's face it, the repercussions for making a bad choice, or the repercussions for changing your operations in a way that ends up leading to an incident are extreme. So yes, the railroads have been cautious, but that's not to say they're not forward thinking. Like Jerry said, they're just like any other corporation out there. They're trying to maximize what they can do, maximize their productivity, minimize their costs, and they would be foolish to not consider technology as one of those solutions to accomplish that goal. PTC, I think, has definitely kicked a lot of that into high gear, simply from the standpoint of, PTC is more than a train control system. At its heart, PTC is a very robust and all-encompassing communications system. And the railroads were smart to identify that, yes, we can get a train control system out of this, but we can also leverage this communications now to provide connectivity to devices that in the past had operated completely autonomously and completely without any type of interaction. And it's really paid dividends. I know at my previous job, the number of pieces of equipment that were being maintained by the signal department had increased approximately 20%. But the amount of minutes that a trouble ticket was open had gone down in the same time, because we had that proactive view of what's happening. So, yeah, I think it's definitely false nowadays to consider the railroads as anything other than forward thinking and embracing new technology. And I think things like C35 are a testament to that.
And before we go any further, just can one of you give the elevator speech as to what PTC stands for, what it is, and where it originated? And my understanding is it might have been around 2008 with the Metrolink collision in Los Angeles. I think kicked off the Railroad Safety Act that Bush signed into law, because there were some bridge safety standards that came out of that too. But that was more so, the bridge piece was kind of the barnacle on the ship there. Maybe just if you could just give like a quick synopsis for our listeners as to what you're referring to.
Yeah, and I would say positive train control, from my perspective, if I summarize this, is basically an enforcement system. So if you look at it, if a signal's at red and you're supposed to stop for it, if the engineer and conductor, for whatever reason, due to inattentiveness or whatever it may be, aren't making the correct movements and applying the brakes to the train to stop before it gets to that red, at a point in time, the system will say, okay, person is not reacting. I will now enforce the braking and stop the train before that stop signal. So it's basically about it truly is a positive train control system that will enforce events that or requirements that are needing to be enforced if they are not acted upon by a person.
Yeah. And I think the other good thing to point out about PTC, or positive train control, is in addition to this enforcement of the existing signal systems we already had in place, it's also providing us a mechanism to positively enforce roadway worker protection and make sure those trains don't get into established work zones, and to make sure that those trains abide by mandatory directives at a failed crossing, for example, things that we didn't have before PTC was in effect.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Mike. And just thinking about the work zone incursion requirements, making sure we're preventing work zone incursions.
Got it. Okay. Outstanding. Well, it sounds like the PTC subcommittee quickly became the repository for new technologies. And when I look at Vic's article, to quote Vic, the railway industry continues to apply more sensors, detectors, diagnostic and inspection equipment on the wayside to monitor and analyze the health, security, and proper operation of critical assets. He goes on to talk about computer-aided dispatching, back office systems, control cab training, simulators. And he talks also even about electric railroads dynamically modeling the performance of traction power systems. That's a wide variety of stuff, guys. So is all of that he's talking about, which I can see how that falls outside of proper PTC guidelines, is that how 35 came about? Or which one of you wants to kind of take that and run with it?
Yeah, I can start with it. And just thinking about the overall premise of creating Committee 35 was to allow for these topics that haven't been really broached by AREMA in general, but yet are still consider issues and things that need to be addressed in the rail industry. And so the intent of creating this new IT portion is to encapsulate some of these best practices amongst the railroads. So let's just say a railroad's looking for how to put in a fire suppression system or any type of sensor system. What standards, and I guess not standards, but best practices amongst the railroads are out there. And this is the best way to gather all those ideas and collectively put them into a committee and have the conversations, hence Committee 35, to have the committee discuss these issues and figure out what is the best avenue for the rail industry in general.
Yeah. There used to be a time when anything electronic on the railroad was either a signal or a radio. And we've seen, as the world has changed over the last 2 and 3 decades, just how much processing is now everywhere. Every device out there. I mean, you look around your home, and you can't turn your head more than 90 degrees and view multiple microprocessors in your home, whether it's in an appliance or a audio visual equipment, whatever. And I think the railroads have run into that as well. They've taken what had been traditionally legacy signal systems, and now we're bolting on all of these additional things, either as a part of the vital system or, as Jerry was pointing out, as an adjunct to that. And now we need to be able to provide some guidance there of how do you go about it. We've all of a sudden got Ethernet connectors on everything, or we've got RF connections that we never had in the past. So, with Committee 35, we're not looking to create the worldwide IT standards. What we're looking to do is take existing IT standards, existing practices that are already out there, and make sure that we present them in a way that they are consumable by the rail professional, to take what's important to them, so that when they have that question, when they have that lingering doubt, when they're still in the process of putting together a project, they have some guidance that will tell them what it's going to look like when they're done.
And Mike, every time you talk about all these sensors and microprocessors, I always start thinking of that movie Maximum Overdrive, just not to date myself, but kind of scary at some point in time when your appliances are talking back to you. But I mean, overall, I think that, as everything becomes censored up, we have what's the term IoT, Internet of Things, and we kind of really have to start figuring out what do we want as an industry, and how do we try to, give everybody the idea of how our industry is moving in that direction. And as you stated, with Ethernet and the internet and everything else, we're becoming more connected, and now we have to do something with this data too, which ends up bringing into the world of data analytics. And the railroads are all in the world of data analytics now, and looking at, what is this stuff telling me? It's telling me a story. Do I need to fix something here, or can I wait a little bit and then fix it later? So it helps us prioritize our maintenance, capital plans, everything else.
Got it. Well, that's yeah. I mean, I personally this week we replaced our router in my own house, and I could not believe the number of devices I had to go around this house and type in the new password. I mean, when you walk in the door, you got the video doorbell to the Nest thermostat to the whatever. It's just like the whole thing fell apart, and I don't think that I'm probably not alone in that. And far less is the industry that we work in. And well, that's a perfect way to jump in. How are you guys going to break this down? I mean, I know that for the structures committees that I'm on, we have subcommittees to handle the different niches. I know that contrary to popular belief by the general public, there's more than just within steel bridges. There's a number of other items within a steel bridge that need to be paid attention to. So how are you guys going to break down what seems to me like just a massive wave coming at you?
I think the biggest part from my perspective was, first let's get a strong leadership team in place. And Mike has such a great background in this, and hence the reason why we kind of gave the vote of confidence here. Mike, you're going to run with this and make us all proud. But at the same time, giving some guidance of some topics of what areas we consider are key right now in the rail industry. And one thing I want to make perfectly clear is Committee 35 was intentionally not given boundaries. So we want to make sure that it doesn't become, okay, you're cast in this specific box here and do not leave this box whatsoever. So, but we still had to give some proper guidance in providing this list of original topics that seem to be the hot topics for IT world. And so given that task, Mike has worked with his team, started forming the framework. And not to speak fully here for Mike, I'll let you segue you into the rest of the conversation there.
Sure. Well, thank you, Jerry. Yes, we have put together a leadership team. So although I'm the chair, I consider myself the least important part of all of this. What really makes the committee is all the members who have joined it. We have a vice chair, Robert Kramer, who is a former colleague of mine from CN. He's now at WebTech, and he's taken on the vice chair role. Very talented when it comes to all things IT, back office, and field communications. He's an amazing talent, and I'm lucky to have him as part of the team. Clay Payne from Burns Engineering has stepped up and said, you know what, I've never been on a committee before, but I want to help out. And so he's going to be our secretary, and really brings a lot of insight when it comes into facilities planning and some of the things that maybe have always fallen on the periphery, particularly at the Class 1 level. Clay has a lot of intimate knowledge in those types of systems, and looking to bring a lot of talent in through that. But really, we have our list of topics, as Jerry has talked about. We've taken a stab at dividing things up into subcommittees, as you were talking about, Walt. And there are sort of natural categories that a lot of these topics fall into. But what's really going to drive all of this home is the members that we can attract. We can't talk about a topic that we don't have expertise on board. So this is really where, I'm going to sit here and make an appeal to those listening and those who are members of AREMA. Consider 35, because it is such a broad set of topics. You will not be bored if you come here. I guarantee there will be topics of interest, topics that you can be an expert on and provide guidance. So that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for a broad base of talent, and would love to see you come on board.
Yeah, and when you say broad base of talent, I mean, I just was looking at some of the subcommittee topics here. Everything from dispatching to on the wayside. If we just look at the wayside, bridge control systems, movable bridge, remote control systems, bridge monitoring systems would probably fall under here. Any IoT devices that are placed on any sort of structure, which is becoming a very hot topic, with whether it's ties to static instrumentation all the way to dynamic instrumentation of Hot Wheels and wild detectors, and I'm sure wild detectors are handled elsewhere, but crossing systems, signal systems, fire and life systems. And then, living in Denver, and folks out west, I don't use as much, but the passenger station systems of ticketing and the cameras and the security, and whew, man, you guys, there is a lot here.
Yeah, there is a lot here, and that's really just in the wayside segment. We've got segments for back office. We've got segments for locomotive and onboard. We've got segments for telecommunications and backhaul. There's no shortage of topics. Like I say, this all goes back to the fact that over the last 20 or 30 years, the technology parade has advanced and really provided connectivity to things that never had it before. And we really need to provide some guidance for what is the sensible way to integrate this into your system. And really, I feel just as important, what are the pitfalls to look out for? What are the things you need to make sure you consider? Because let's face it, the rail environment, although, yes, we have IT connectivity currently, but we also have a very abusive and challenging, rugged environment. So what are the factors there that may affect your deployment above and beyond what a typical IT deployment would be? And that's what I say. We're going to take IT best practices and we're going to custom tailor them for our environment.
Yeah, I remember in a previous life, we were designing instrumentation that goes on bridges. And I remember the lead, he was my CTO, came to me and said, so what's the reliability of this? And I said, oh, you just need to be able to put this on a bridge 100 feet in the air, and it needs to withstand high vibration, potential flooding, the occasional hurricane, and significant lightning strikes. And it needs to do all that for, I don't know, about 10 years without breaking. And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, really? And I said, yep, that's the kind of the tough environment that we're trying to build all these things for. This is not this is not, I mean, I probably shouldn't use the brand, but this is not a smart thermostat that we're putting in a temperature controlled house.
Right.
So this is cool. I mean, I just look at this thinking to myself, the way this is going, the way I loved your term technology parade. Uh, this parade's going to keep getting longer before I see a guy coming along and cleaning up all the candy. So, I mean, is there potential here, Jerry, for 35 to potentially have children? I mean, I could further committees as part of the CNS functional group, even.
Yeah, and as we talked earlier about, thinking about the data analytics world, what does the data tell us? How do we handle that? How do we absorb all of this data? Of course, that may fall under back office systems to some extent, but the back office system is more about how do you gather this information. But now it's like once you have this information, you have to do something with it. So as they say, the sky's the limit here with this. And, we have great opportunity to keep expanding upon this as necessary. So, of course, at some point in time, it gets too big, but we'll tackle that when we get to that point. But to Mike's point, I think the biggest part is getting enough people to be involved in this to help contribute. Without this contribution from folks and participation, it's just going to stay here as a bunch of topics that we'd really like to get covered, but really nothing moves forward on it. So that participation is going to be crucial.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges we're facing, not to cut you off, Walt, but one of the challenges that I feel we're facing is this group can vastly benefit from the talent that's already in AREMA, but it can also vastly benefit from talent that may never have considered AREMA as a resource in the past. We're truly opening the door to segments of the rail industry that may not have even heard of AREMA. So it's a challenge, but it's also I think, a unique opportunity to truly promote the values and what AREMA is all about. I look forward to that.
That's a great point. I think that those listening to this that may not even be a member, or someone sent them an email with a link, hey, check this out. This is the perfect entree to get into AREMA and be a part of it. And right out of the bat, or right out of the gates, you're going to be contributing. So let's talk about that real quick. You've got, according to Vic, this was created in June at the AREMA Functional Group Board of Directors meeting, which I attended, and we greenlighted this. So we have a leadership team in place. Do you already have members in place? Have people applied? What's that looking like right now?
We have had people apply. We've got 20 members on the committee already within the last 2 weeks, I'd say. So the initial response was very strong. It validated the fact that I think we all suspected this was an unfulfilled need, and when we saw that initial sort of surge of membership applications, I think we knew we were onto something. So would love to see that continue. Of course, you can still apply. Nothing has closed down. So and one other thing to note too is don't feel. Typically there have been committee limits in the past where you couldn't be on multiple committees. C35 and C39, to my understanding, those limits actually don't apply. So don't feel like you have to leave a committee just to join C35. And maybe Jerry can expand on that.
No, thanks, Mike. I was going to bring that up too. So typically you're limited to two committees for a maximum, and Committee 39 was granted a waiver per se of allowance for you can be on 36, 37, and 39 didn't count as that maximum committee requirements. And so Committee 35 has also been granted that. So if you're on Committee 36, 37, you can also participate in 35. Or if you're on 37, 38, you can also participate in 35. So it was more set to the fact of we were a little bit concerned that maybe somebody is on 36, they like 36 and 37, and they may not want to participate in 35 because they want to stay on those two committees. So this now gives that exemption to allow for them to also participate in 35. So basically not robbing 36, 37 of their talent, but yet at the same time provide the flexibility for them to encourage participation in Committee 35.
But it also sounds like you could benefit from people, frankly, in the structures functional group that might have interest in coming over and sitting on this committee. I mean, I'm just thinking, not to be selfish, but we have, interests in what 35 is doing. There's a lot of work right now in the monitoring space, as well as the drone space being used to fly around these bridges. And just got to see a cool presentation with a group that's got little drones that live in boxes, and they pop out from time to time and inspect the bridges and go back in the boxes. I mean, that's all, it's all coming. So it sounds like you don't just have to be in the CNS functional group to join this group.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, even from the passenger and transit side functional group, their ability to participate in 35 is there as well.
Exactly. It's a part of CNS because, like I mentioned earlier, we always had this sort of legacy thought that, well, if electrons flow through it, it's part of the signal department. But let's face it, electrons flow through everything now. And it really does touch upon a broad swath of AREMA. So please check it out, become a member. We can certainly use your talent, and the committee will be shaped by those who join it.
And just to tag on to that a little bit, Mike, is thinking about, my participation in various committees over the years. I can't even begin to tell you the world of difference that it makes becoming connected with other professionals in a shared common interest. And, being involved since 1999 on 36, 37, 39, just the contacts, we're all dealing with the same kind of problems, and having someone to either cry on their shoulder or even take a napkin out and start drawing stuff on it and figuring out what you want to do. And just the contacts in itself, I mean, and the history of what some of those folks have to share. And I live by the philosophy of, history has a tendency to repeat itself. If we're listening and watching what has happened in the past or listen to the experience of others, we sometimes don't need to repeat it again. So,
man, I feel like I can already envision that first meeting, and the meeting is over and I'm standing at the bar with Jerry, and he's looking at me and says, "Let me tell you about the Y2K bug." That's how old I am. Let me tell you, 99. Here we go. So, maybe we could wrap it up with just a little bit of an outline of what your year looks like. So you're collecting members. There's a call for membership. That's loud and clear. And we're looking at 20 now. There's no cap. So when is your first meeting? Obviously, we're virtual at the conference this year. I'm assuming you're going to do a in-person, hopefully somewhere soon. And how often are you going to meet? I guess my question is, what are the time commitments for someone that does decide they'd like to be a part of this?
I think for folks who have been a part of a CNS committee in the past, they're used to particularly pre-COVID, we're used to essentially 2 in-person meetings a year. And we definitely want to have that as part of C35. But we have a couple of things that we want to consider. One is this is a new committee. We're launching it. And one thing that always kind of struck me was sometimes in that 6-month interim, sometimes the focus was lost. Sometimes the momentum was lost. And because we're trying to get this off the ground, I really don't want the momentum to get lost. So what I'm proposing to the members, and we'll have some official communications here come August, is in addition to those 2 in-person meetings, and obviously this is dependent on COVID and the general state of the world, but in addition to those, we're also going to have at least 2 virtual meetings on sort of the off months from there. I'd like to start with 4 meetings a year just because we are getting things going and trying to maintain that momentum. But we also have a wonderful communities site that has been spun up by AREMA within the last year that is going to provide us with an incredible opportunity for what I like to call the non-real-time communications. Those times where folks are going to throw out ideas, they're going to throw out taking polls, they're going to throw out any manner of communications, and it really will allow folks to have that interaction with the committee, but still have their day job, because we realize this is a voluntary activity, and we appreciate every moment you can give us. So I'm really, and I just actually had a meeting this morning with the committee leadership about how much I want to make sure that community site is a part of the experience, because one, we're trying to attract people who have an IT background. They're already more than familiar with living in that sort of online virtual community world. And so I definitely want to do what's comfortable for them. But it also will, I think, allow us to keep those topics, conversations, sort of the after the committee meeting banter around the bar. Well, I want to keep that going even during the off months. So I really want to leverage that community site as much as I can. So, but expect 2 in person and probably 2 virtual meetings would be the commitment during the year, and obviously we'll adjust that as needed and depending on the needs that come down from the board.
And the first one you said you're going to announce most likely, you said in August.
We'll have some communications in August. One, I want to get to know the members better. So part of our communications in August is actually going to be a little informal survey, sort of a tell me about you type thing. And then we're also going to start polling the membership, the folks who have already signed on, and give them a list of the subcommittees and try to gauge an interest for how the subcommittees are balancing out. Because, obviously we don't want to spin up 4 subcommittees and then have all 20 people join one. So we need to make sure we're balanced there.
And to throw in too, Mike, is including, I'll call it whistle stops, but I mean, we've got 36, 37, 38, and 39 meeting in Indianapolis for RSSI coming up in September. And the intent is also for Mike and the leadership team to make those whistle stops in at those committees and just explain what's going on. And one thing, we've been a very tight team in the CNS and now CS and IT functional group is being supportive of each other. So I'm really excited to hear that our committee chairs in the CS and IT functional group have been supportive to helping Mike and the leadership team out and getting things kicked off. And then just even thinking about the staff at AREMA headquarters supporting this whole endeavor as well has been just fabulous.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys got a lot of work ahead of you. Obviously, setting up a new committee, you're going to have to find subcommittee chairmen and chairwomen, and you're going to have to find, like you said at the very beginning, Mike, it's great to have you as the chair, but I've been a chair, and the backbone of these committees is your subcommittee chairman and chairwomen. And so you're going to have to get good ones for all of this. It also looks like, just kind of reading through your subcommittee assignments thus far, I think there's a room to add subcommittees, and hopefully there's still time that is somewhat a movable target. I don't
exactly. What we've laid out so far is based on just sort of a wild guess of the number of folks that we're going to get. If the numbers are high and we can break things up into more granular groups, great, we'll get more done at once.
Right.
But, we want to make sure that we've tailored the subcommittee structure for the talent we've attracted. So, to that end, anyone who's listening to this podcast, anyone who's in the rail industry, maybe on the engineering side, make sure to share this with your friends over on the IT side who maybe haven't heard of us or talked to us. Send them the link. Let them know this is happening. We're not, like I say, we're not looking to replace all of the IT practices that they've come to know and love over the years. We're looking to tailor them for the industry we work in. And there's going to be a lot of value to be had by them. And frankly, AREMA will benefit from their expertise as well. So welcome, everybody.
Yeah, and let's be careful with that word IT. I think anyone that's working with data, I almost like data technology systems. If someone's working with any sort of data and data mining, data science, no matter what aspect of the railway you're working with, I think those people may have interest in this. This is really cool, and I'm excited. This is, I get to benefit as being the host of this podcast to learn and talk to folks like yourselves. This is just a really, really cool thing that's going on within AREMA, and it shows that AREMA does not have a blind eye to the future, and we are embracing new technology. And Jerry, is there anything you want to finish up with, or Mike, or even just instructions on how one might apply to the committee?
So I would say just remember, we talk about this is huge, and and the way we kind of look at it as how do you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So we just we'll manage through this. Mike's leadership and the leadership team will really do a good job. And again, just encourage as much participation. If anybody's listening to this podcast, spread the word, get it out to the right folks that may be interested, and even to think about those who don't even know they're interested in it yet. There's always opportunities to ask questions and find out. Reach out to Mike, and I think all the contact information will be available on AREMA's website. So there's ability to ask questions if you're unsure of things. So I really appreciate you bringing us on here to talk and listen to us, I guess. And thanks to all the podcasters out there listening to us as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Walt, and thank you to AREMA for putting this committee together and having some faith in myself and my compadres who are going to try to lead this up, and welcome everyone to C35.
Perfect. Guys, thanks for joining me. And thank you, listeners. This one was a little on the long side, but if you're listening to this, much appreciation for you sticking around to the bitter end. And hopefully there won't be as big of a time gap for the next one. Thanks again.
Thank you for rolling with AREMA on today's episode of Platform Chats. For further information about AREMA, please visit arema.org or contact us at info@arema.org.